Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we are discussing a Grade 5 titanium limited edition of 500 pieces launched at Baselworld in 2009. This is the Ulysse Nardin Marine Diver Acqua Perpetual. This model is sometimes known as the Diver Perpetual to distinguish it from previous Acqua Perpetual models. It's larger. It measures 45 millimeters at the edge of the bezel, and that's the diameter. It's 15.2 millimeters thick, lug-to-lug. The case is 48.3 millimeters. End-link to end-link, it's 54.5 millimeters. And has a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now we'll zoom out a little bit. I'll throw it on my wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. The watch fits. It's large. It doesn't overwhelm me, but I'm going to say 16 centimeters is probably going to be the smallest wrist you want to pair with this watch. If your wrist is larger, excellent. If your wrist is smaller, previous Acqua Perpetual models combine the same features and a smaller case. But being titanium, it is reasonably light, so that's not an encumbrance. It's just that it's physically quite broad across the wrist. Taking a quick look at the bracelet, it's definitely a unique piece. The shape of the links and the finishing of the links like nothing else. It doesn't look like a Rolex Oyster. It doesn't look like any Breitling Professional. It doesn't look like any Omega. This is something that is idiosyncratic in the way only Ulysse Nardin can be. You could see how there are fluted inner profiles to the links inner faces, an unusual sort of contouring that adds depth to the bracelet. Most bracelets are just flat. This one actually has peaks and valleys. Taking a quick look in profile, you can see that although they are small, the screws do hold the removable links in place. This is not a pin sleeve bracelet, so with jeweler's screwdrivers, you should be able to size this bracelet. Taking a quick look, we have one of the best clasps ever made by UN. Very thick gauge steel, twin trigger release. You must positively disengage both to open up the clasp. Here we have something that's not universal on UN divers, and that's a fold-out dive extension. Nice to see that, handy if you're a diver, but also useful for wearing your watch over a thick winter coat or sweater. Taking a look right here, everything is grade 5 tie, and you know that it's grade 5 tie because all of this is polished, and polishing is a hallmark of grade 5 titanium. You can't polish the grade 2 stuff, so not only is it hypoallergenic and a lot lighter than steel, the grade 5 stuff is also more scratch resistant than steel. The contouring of the lugs is difficult to capture here, but there's a little bit of an inward curvature, like a bow, and then there is a distinct break from the case. So that sharp break between case and lug is highly uncommon among dive-style watches, which tend to integrate their lugs the way Seamasters and Submariners and Sea Dwellers do. But this is very much in keeping with the Ulysse Nardin marine chronometer for the wrist design ethos. That continues in the concave profile of the case and the individual number plate that has been lacquered with blue lacquer and then fixed with fired screws. You can even see that the plate has been beveled on its edges and satinated across its top. This is in the tradition of the navigation clocks or marine chronometers that Ulysse Nardin built for civilian and military sea navigation during the 19th and early 20th century, having that external number plate. What you might not note is that the bezel is actually not the same material as the case and bracelet. The bezel is 18 karat white gold. There's a very subtle change in the tone of the metal as you move from one to the other, but the bezel is made of white gold, continuing a precious metal tradition that's been present in several previous versions of the Acqua Perpetual series. We have a bezel that has a nice refined action, and you can see, I'll demonstrate this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks. It's a 60 click bezel, and it has a nice feel. It's not as chunky and raucously loud as something like a Doxa Sub or a Panerai Luminor Submersible, but it's got a lot more mechanical detent action to it than something like a Cartier, Calibre de Cartier diver, an Omega Seamaster diver 300 meter, or any Rolex dive watch. Now, what we have are actually rubber, they're actually lacquer inserts inside of the bezel itself. They have a rubber-like texture to them. We have a dial of carbon fiber, which is a little unusual on a diver, but then again, so is the use of orange, and so is the use of a perpetual calendar. We have a screw-down crown. We have 200-meter water resistance, so this is a true diver. We're going to do a quick loom shot, just so you can get a better sense of what all that orange looks like in the dark. You can see orange luminova is not the brightest variety, but with large amounts of it applied, UN gets the job done. It's an upscale dial. As you can see, we have a thick layer of lacquer on the carbon fiber base to the point that it seems almost like a hologram. We have individual polished frames for all the calendar indications and a satinated track for reading the running seconds. All of the indices have been intricately faceted, finished with both satin and polish and applied by hand. And then we have black painted hands at the center. So you see the orange luminova installations, but not the hands themselves. You may ask, why a perpetual calendar on a dive watch? Well, perpetual calendar is an everyday friendly complication. It's something you will use all the time, just like people wear their dive watches all the time, even when they're not diving. Most dive watches just putter around the office, the club, or the school. And you can see right here that having an everyday friendly complication like a perpetual calendar makes sense on a watch people tend to wear every day, like a dive style watch. You have a bidirectionally settable perpetual calendar. This is the Ludwig Oxlin system, and it allows you to set in both directions. Take a quick look. You can see that the month is jumping, and I'm able to set this perpetual calendar in a bidirectional fashion. That means in the year 2100, this is one of the few perpetuals that does not need to go back to the factory to be corrected. Now, it gives you a double-digit date, it gives you the day, it gives you the month, it also gives you the year and the decade, so it is a very complicated and very comprehensive time display. It is a chronometer certified by the COSC. We'll flip it over so you can see the movement, which is quite nicely done. It bears a level of finishing comparable to what you'll find on Glasuta Original, on Jaeger LeCoultre, on Audemars Piguet, on Zenith. It's quite attractive. You can see there's a white gold rotor with a lacquered inlay featuring the image of the Ulysse Nardin anchor. The rotor in white gold has been multiply finished with several different surface finishes. You can see a little bit of the let me show you this right here. There is a bidirectional pawl-based magic lever style winding system. All of this is distantly based on a Lamagna automatic caliber. It winds a 48-hour power reserve. It beats away at 4 hertz or 8 beats per second. And all of this pivots on 34 joules. The module sits on top. The driving caliber sits on the bottom, and you can see it uses circular Cote de Genève as well as true fired blued screws, which I happen to appreciate immensely. It is a capable motive force for the module, and it has a 48-hour power reserve. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this Ulysse Nardin Marine Diver Perpetual.